Welcome back to JM Football Power Rankings. I am Justin Penik. This is Dalton Feely. Every single week we rank NFL teams from 32 going up to 1. Dalton, let's get right into it. Caleb, Williams-ville. We have the Carolina Panthers at 32, the Chicago Bears at 31, the Denver Broncos at 30, the Arizona Cardinals at 29, New England Patriots at 28. The Giants go up to 27. How about that? We're making progress.
I mean, it's just because they looked serviceable versus the Buffalo Bills.
Still haven't scored a touchdown in like 3 games. We're not going to talk about any of those teams because we've talked about them enough. We've spent enough time on some of these bad teams.
Get them out of here.
Early in the season. Get them out. There's a lot of fun and interesting conversations to have at the top. There's no more undefeated teams in the NFL. We'll talk about that when we get to the top. The thank you next tier.
Shout out Ariana Grande.
Tennessee Titans at 26. The Minnesota Vikings at 25. Commanders 3-3 at 24. You're not a big Commanders believer. 23, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. And 22, your Indianapolis Colts just lost Anthony Richardson for the season. That was announced.
Just a big sigh. I mean, it's like deja vu all over again. You know, the Yogiism. Anthony Richardson is following the steps of Andrew Luck in terms of the injuries, which scares me. Luck had a few injuries, like very severe injuries in different years, which led to his early retirement. Richardson's had 3 injuries in 3 games, essentially. And no, I'm not saying he's going to retire early like Andrew Luck. I am saying, however, it's scary that we've seen that many injuries from Anthony Richardson. Yep. As a Colts fan, I was really excited to see Gardner play his revenge game versus the Jaguars. I'm like, a little revenge. We know how Gardner gets excited, that energy.
Didn't get a lot of revenge.
No, he looked shitty. Like, he fumbled once. He threw 3 picks. He looked awful. The Colts lose their 9th straight. Their 9th straight. In Jacksonville, or on the road in Jacksonville, because one of the games was in London. But they don't beat Jacksonville in Jacksonville. We saw it with Wentz when they played the last week when they were fighting for a wild card spot with Carson Wentz as their starting quarterback. And guess what happened that year? They lost and they didn't make the playoffs.
They didn't even beat him when Urban Meyer was there?
That was the year.
That was the year?
Yeah, that was the year. Urban Meyer, they were wearing the clown suits that year.
Oh, man.
Winning in. All they needed. Carson Wentz and the Colts couldn't do it then. Then they lose again and again. They can't beat them in Jacksonville. It's wild.
All right, yeah, so Anthony Richardson goes down for the season. That's going to do it for the thank you. Next tier, we'll move to the mid-mamma tier, where we have the Packers at 21, the Steelers at 20. Both of those teams had a bye. The Falcons at 19, the Saints at 18, the Texans moving on up, going to 17. I believe they're 3-3, looking pretty solid right now. I want to talk about the Falcons, and it's very simple. I think we've said it before. I think there's a lot of people that are saying it, so I'm not saying anything new. The Falcons will not do anything, and I don't think they're going to do anything this year at all anyway, but they could be a much more serious, like, playoffs, why not team if Desmond Ridder is out and if they bench Desmond Ridder. They had three drives in the fourth quarter where they had an opportunity to take the lead and win the game, and they didn't. It's so frustrating. I know Ridder had a good game 2 weeks ago, but it's so frustrating seeing this team that has Drake London, who Drake London's finally starting to get more involved. Kyle Pitts has had a somewhat strong past 2 weeks, finally getting more involved. Bijan Robinson, they're giving him now the majority of the carries, and it's not so much of running back by committee with Tyler Algier. So and also they're wasting such a good effort on the defensive side of it too. I think they're pretty average in pass pro and as a pass defense. But they're the best run defense in the NFL right now. They're wasting that effort, and it's just so frustrating. Put Taylor Heineke in.
Heineke season. Is that what we're going with here?
They got it, man. They got it, but they're not going to as long as they're close-ish in football games or if they're winning football. Like, if they go 500, then Desmond Ridder's going to stay. It's so unfortunate that the only thing that they're going to, I think, because they drafted Ridder, they will not bench Ridder until they lose like 3 games in a row. And at this point, if you have a 3-game losing streak when you're already a 500 team, your season's over. And I don't want their season to be over.
Yeah, because I mean, in the NFC South, like, it's literally any team. Like, the Bucks, Saints, and Falcons are all hovering in that range. Sorry, Panthers, we're not even in the discussion. But those 3 teams are like, any one of those teams has a legitimate shot to win that division. The Falcons, like, we know the stat with Desmond Ridder. The first time he's ever lost at home since before college, where he undefeated at Cincinnati. First loss at the pro level playing in Atlanta. But it's not because of Ritter. Ritter is a quarterback, in my opinion, and he's a win in spite of. You're not winning games as the Atlanta Falcons because of Desmond Ritter's play. Now, maybe the Houston Texans game, I think the week prior, like that drive by Ritter and the Falcons offense, sure, tip of the cap.
Nice.
But majority of the time, Falcons are not winning because of Desmond Ritter playing quarterback. It's run game, offensive line play for the run blocking game. Defense played fantastic. Ritter's had 3 turnovers in 2 of the last 3 games. Like, he's giving games away.
It's very frustrating.
I will say, shout out Calais Campbell recording his 100th career sack. A guy like one of the greatest players, one of the greatest people to play the game. Walter Payton Man of the Year. So I'm very happy for him. Jonnu Smith scored his first touchdown since week 4 of 2021. It's been a minute, crazy. So good for him.
That's crazy. All right, let's move to the playoffs. Why not tier? Where a team like the Atlanta Falcons maybe should be in this tier, right. but they're not because they don't give consistent play. The Jets are at 16. They're big movers. The Bucks are at 15. The Chargers dropped to 14. The Rams are at 13, and the Browns are at 12. Both teams that defeated the undefeated, the rest of the remaining undefeated teams in the NFL are in this tier.
PJ Walker, how about it? He goes to 5-3 as a starter in the NFL, not in appearances. Yeah, he's 5-3. Now, again, another win in spite of he's run 4 picks to 8 interceptions in those games and only averaging 161 yards per game. But PJ Walker, known winner as an NFL quarterback, that's kind of funny. Good for him. Quick shout out only because he was a Colts preseason standout every year since from 2017 2019. Never made the active roster with Indy. He'd always come in the 3rd and 4th quarter and play lights out. So it was really cool to see him get a shot with Carolina and the XFL and then back with Cleveland. Good for him.
I'm trying to find number 6 on the Browns. Wani Nwosu, is that his name?
You say JOK?
No.
Who are you trying to say?
Oh, yeah, JOK.
Yeah.
Yeah, JOK has been playing with his hair on fire.
He's been great at the linebacking position, man. I mean, I loved him out of Notre Dame. That besides the point, though.
And that's he was one of those players that was what do you play? Are you a corner? Or are you a safety? Or are you a linebacker? What do you exactly do? So seeing JOK, I didn't put 2 and 2 together on the broadcast that was JOK, but I saw him playing with his hair on fire. So shout out to that defense. They're doing some great stuff. Clearly that defense is leading them to victory.
Dominantly. They're first in yards per play allowed, yards per game, 3rd down conversion. Jim Schwartz has really changed the identity of the Cleveland Browns defense.
Yeah.
And it's a big reason why they've looked really good. Their offense has been very questionable, especially with Deshaun Watson being hurt, Nick Chubb being out for the year. If Nick Chubb is playing, if he was healthy, oh my gosh, this team would be so much even higher ranked because of how good I think that offense could be. No, shots taken at Jerome Ford or Kareem Hunt, but Nick Chubb is literally that guy. When he's on the field, as a pure runner, I would put him at number 1 in the NFL at the running back position. Yeah. That's how good he is. So it sucks that he's not healthy, but that Browns defense has been electric, and let's see if Jim Schwartz can keep that crew going that way.
Amari Cooper really keeping that offense afloat too with some amazing catches. So I do think, even though I'm not a Deshaun Watson guy at all, simply just from a performance standpoint, I do think the offense will get better when he returns, and then let's see where the team goes when he actually does return. So.
I do want to say, they do have a couple good pieces on the offensive side of the ball, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, David Njoku, but none of them really had that big of an impact last week. I know the Niners defense is really good too, but no receiver had over 25 yards besides Amari Cooper.
Right.
So we have a backup quarterback in the 3rd quarterback we've played this season as a Cleveland Browns team, right? We need some other guys outside of Amari Cooper to step up and help your quarterback out here.
Right. All right, let's move to the playoffs. You better be there tier. We have the Seattle Seahawks at 11, the Cincinnati Bengals at 10. We got a lot of flack. Why are you keeping the Bengals in there? Why are you keeping the Bengals in there? They've ripped off 2 wins the last 2 weeks. Obviously there's still improvements that they need to take, but this was the first week where I felt like Joe Burrow was moving around really well, moving in the pocket, and then I think this was also the first week they reported on the broadcast that he was actually running full speed.
Yeah.
First week that he was doing it, and he looked the part. So good for us, at least for right now, keeping the Bengals up there. The Jaguars are at 9, the Ravens are at 8, the Cowboys are at 7.
I do want to give a quick shout out to the Jaguars. I mean, I saw that game. I'm a Colts fan. I was watching that game. I was watching all the games, but I really saw this game. The Jacksonville Jaguars defense, we talk about their offense. The Jaguars leads the NFL in takeaways. That defense has 15 takeaways, most in the NFL. So give credit to the Jaguars defense for how well they played. They forced 4 versus the Colts this week. They've been playing out of their mind. Foye Oluokun, former Falcon playing linebacker for them, had 15 tackles, led week 6 out of all players in the NFL. He tied with, I think, Blake Cashman of the Texans, Teron Johnson of the Bills, who played your Giants. That defense is underratedly good, and I'm curious to see if that season goes on, if the offense takes a step up, is the Jaguars getting closer to that Lombardi Land that we had the aspirations they could be this season.
Yeah, I think what they're also doing, they talked about this on the broadcast too, that they're not necessarily force-feeding the ball to Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
And Christian Kirk had a little bit of a better game.
Ingram was getting some splash.
Yeah,
too.
so excited to see that offense form. You were talking about the defensive side of the ball. I wanted to check in on my guy Andre Cisco from Syracuse.
Yeah,
he has 3 interceptions
had one week
on the
6.
season. He had a forced fumble this past weekend against your Colts. So that was a guy that forced a lot of turnovers at Syracuse, and it's carrying over to the NFL. So that's fun to see. Dalton, let's move to Lombardi Land.
Everyone's favorite land. How about it?
And we're getting to the Lombardi Land probably the quickest that we've ever gotten to, because we actually we want to have a who is the best team in the NFL discussion right now, especially because the 2 remaining undefeated teams lose.
Out.
So now it's like who is the best team in the NFL? The Chiefs are going down to 6. The Lions are at 5. The Bills 4. Eagles 3. Dolphins 2. And then 49ers remain at 1.
So, this is the question we all want to know, right? Because this is, I think, so far this season, the most questions we've had on who is the best team, who's going to win the Super Bowl. There's usually early in the season, there are points where we're like, this team's the best team in football. Who's going to beat this team? Mm-hmm. It had been the Chiefs in past years. The Eagles early in the year last year also had that when they were 8-0. This year, there's a lot of question marks with all these teams. The Chiefs, very suspect versus the Broncos Thursday Night Football in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. Odd. Bills, highly suspect Sunday Night Football versus your Giants in Buffalo. Odd. The Lions. The Lions are number 5 on this board. They've won 4 straight games of 14-plus points. They look like the team.
They're kicking ass.
They're kicking ass right now, and I'm curious to see, as the season goes on, we're only in week 6, going into week 7. I get it. But this Lions team looks legit. They're 5-1. We talk about the Niners and the Eagles being 5-1. They're right there too.
Yeah.
How about the Lions, man? Ben Johnson's probably going to be a head coach after this year.
100% going
no
to be
doubt. Jared Goff looks like 2018 Jared Goff.
Crazy.
It's amazing how this Lions team is. I don't think they're the best team in football yet, but right now I think they're the hottest team in football.
Yeah, they're certainly the hottest for sure. I'm still waiting. This is my 2022 thinking Lions brain, and this is bad, and Lions fans may get mad at me for saying this. Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for the Lions letdown game.
Oh,
I am, because we had this last year where we're talking about. Now, I do think this team is different from last year for the Lions.
Yeah, the defense is way better.
Continuity, another year of Ben Johnson, another year all that stuff does matter, and they're hitting the right strides at the right time. But I am waiting for the Lions letdown game, whether not necessarily offensively but defensively. I'm waiting for it a little bit.
Can I say, next week, going into week 7, they play the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. That is my game I have circled.
Oh, yeah.
One of the games I have circled.
The non-Sunday Night Football game.
That's Eagles-Dolphins, right?
Yeah, that's going to be
awesome.
Oh, there's fun games on this schedule.
I'm very excited to see how this Baltimore Ravens team plays this Detroit Lions team. I think the Lions are going to go into Baltimore and beat them. I really do.
Wow.
Lamar's the best player, the quarterback-wise versus Goff, but Goff has been more efficient, and he's not turning the ball over. Yeah. I really think it depends on Montgomery's health, right? Depends on Gibbs' health for the Lions running game, because that's where their bread and butter is. But I really think, man, this Lions team can go into Baltimore. If they win that game, you have to consider them as a true team that could win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, that'll be about limiting big plays, because you have the Ravens defense that on an EPA per play basis on dropbacks, they're the 4th best pass defense in the league right now. They're both very similar in rushing EPA per play allowed, both very, very good. And I'll tell you what, what a turnaround. I did just I was like, I'm waiting for the Lions defense to have a letdown game.
Yeah.
A very big turnaround by the Lions defense, run defense wise.
Yeah.
One of the worst in the league last year, and now this year they are one of the best. They're pretty good on that end. So I'm really excited for that game. I actually like that it's in Baltimore, because since the Lions are the favorite with just being a better team, I like that it's in Baltimore to kind of give the Lions an additional challenge, and seeing what they got. Let's talked about the Bills a little bit. They struggled against the Giants Sunday Night Football. I'm going to tell you why I'm not overly concerned about that.
Okay.
Brian Dable revenge game. I think Brian Dable had extra insight and like knowing what the Bills are about, what they're trying to accomplish, what they're doing, what makes Josh Allen tick. Josh Allen didn't have one of his best games. He was missing guys. But that's my little caveat to maybe why the Bills didn't look so great against the Giants. Their defense still looked good. They didn't allow a touchdown throughout the whole game. They were very close to allowing 2 touchdowns at the end of the half. They were close to losing. They were 36 inches away from losing the game, so the talking point is a lot different if the Bills lose the game.
Yeah.
Like they drop. I wouldn't want to drop them from Lombardi Land, but maybe they would if you lose to the Giants, the worst
At
offense
home?
in football, at home on primetime. So I'm not concerned about the Bills. Like I think that was just a very peculiar, unique game against Brian Dable. I want to talk about the Dolphins and the 49ers.
So these are the two teams. And the Eagles, listen, I give the Eagles their flowers. Like, they're going to be really good.
They're good.
They haven't clicked yet. Like,
No.
I believe Anthony Johnson's the offense coordinator. He took over for Shane Steichen when he went to join the Indianapolis Colts as the head coach. Like, that offense hasn't clicked yet. And they've been putting up points, though. This was the first week I've really seen that offense struggle. Like, DeAndre Swift runs for, I think, under 20 yards in
But
that
Lane
game.
Johnson goes down.
Lane Johnson.
And that changes
Oh, my gosh.
the game. And Tony, Finance Tony, is the resident Eagle fan in the office. I asked him, I said, is he going to be all right? He said he's got a chance to play this week and that it's a minor injury. So that's good
huge
for the Eagles because you look at their win-loss record without Lane Johnson, it's like really below 500. And then obviously with Lane Johnson, it's way above 500. So it's crazy how that one player, it's such a good offensive line, but how that one player really does kind of dictate what kind of offense the Eagles are running, because that was one of the first times that I saw Jalen Hurts on like consistent pressure. The Jets front is very talented, but that Eagles O-line has been able to basically hold everybody at bay, and Jalen Hurts throwing like off platform was like a 2021 sight. And Jalen Hurts was not very good in 2021.
He threw 3 picks in that game. I think Jack Driscoll took over. He's usually like their guy that comes in to fill in most
I
of
don't
their
think
spots.
he's bad, but
No, but he's not Lane Johnson.
No, he's not
You know
Lane
what I mean?
Johnson.
Like, this is the first. I also think they lost Isaac Sumalu to Pittsburgh in free agency. Their guard. So that depth at O-line is also a little bit thinner. They usually had like 7 or 8 guys they would play in. That would be
is
pretty
crazy.
solid. Dillard used to be on the Eagles.
now they're
gone.
normal.
Yeah.
Now the Eagles are normal and they're human, where they don't have 8 guys that you could plug and play anywhere. Maybe they have a good 5, and then you're.
And then Driscoll's
then
okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
After Jack Driscoll, I don't know who 7 or 8 is.
I take
line.
Driscoll. I'm a giant. I take Driscoll as a starting lineman right now. So that's the Eagles. Like we'll see how they continue to gel. Lane Johnson being out, not being there,
Still 3
is a huge story. They're still 3. They're still good. They played a close game.
Yeah.
They lost a close game. Dolphins at 2, 49ers at 1. Dalton, I think this is where we disagree.
Yeah, a little bit.
So where would you have the Dolphins 1 if this were like Dalton Feely only power rankings?
I would. I think it's remarkable. We've never seen, I talked about it last week. We've never seen an offense that could score at this will. Most yards through 5 games in NFL history going into last week. This is such an explosive offense. They put up 42. They're down 14-0 to Carolina at home. And you're like, and I go on Twitter, I'm like, which team is the team that hasn't won a game yet so far this year? Because Carolina jumped them. Like, they blitzed them, a couple 3 and out to start the game. That was the first drive Miami has not gotten into the opponent's red zone inside the 10-yard line. So that is really something like shocking, playing a team that had not won a game. Down 14-0, they score 35 straight points. Take a lead 35-14. Mike White comes in, game's over. Basically, there's a pick 6. And then the Dolphins score again anyway. So why not, right? Raheem Mostert. I am such a Raheem the Dream Mostert fan. In fantasy, it's a fantasy football thing. I always, he's an eye test guy. Like, he'd always get banged up.
You didn't draft him in the JM Office League. Guess who did?
Besides the point. So, Raheem, I'm not going to guess.
I did.
Oh. Raheem Mostert has 9 rushing touchdowns this year. It's week 6. That's a career high.
Yeah.
He's 30, 32, 31, 32 years old, 33, 34, 35. I don't know. He's in his 30s as a running back.
He's old for a running back.
For a running back. It's wild. And he set a career high. It's week 6. Tyreek Hill already has 814 receiving yards. It's week 6. He's on pace to break the all-time receiving record in one season. All-time receiving record in one season. Excuse me. This offense has been so explosive. Red zone scoring touchdown. Like, they don't have to get in the red zone. When they do, guess what? They're still best in football at 81%. Points per game. They average 37 points per game. Only one other team is above 30. That's their San Francisco 49ers. No one else is above 31. They're outscoring the second highest offense by over a touchdown, which is absolutely bonkers to me. The defense, we've gotten better. Chubb's playing, I think, had a sack this week versus Carolina. Yeah. Really excited to see what this defense looks like when Jalen Ramsey's back. That's what I'm looking at this as like a stock, right? Right now, the offensive stock's high and the defensive stock's a little bit lower. Mm-hmm. When Ramsey comes back, you're adding a playmaker, former All-Pro. Him, Javon Holland, Bradley Chubb, Christian Wilkins.
You're adding him to Vic Fangio's defense that relies on secondary and preventing the big play.
That's going to be a really fun defense. You have those playmakers. I'm very excited. Dolphins are 1. They haven't had a shitty game yet, except like they got blitzed by the Bills, like the shitty 48-21 game. I get that. Besides that, they've put up points.
Yeah,
they're number 1.
You think they're number 1?
They're number 1. They're number 1.
I think the 49ers are number 1.
Okay,
I do. Who is more efficient on the ground, and then who is more efficient on the air? Like, give me like Dolphins versus 49ers. What do you think? And I'm looking at EPA per play.
Per ground, I would say Miami's more efficient. Per air, I would say San Fran's more efficient.
Which you wouldn't think. Like, you would think that that would be the opposite.
Was I right?
But you are right. San Fran.
I know ball?
San Fran is number 1 in EPA per play through the air.
Yeah.
Drop back. Yeah. And then they're not number 1 rush EPA per play. Like they're good. Like they're up there. But the Dolphins are clear in a way number 1. The fact that the 49ers are still number 1 despite having a bad offensive performance against the Cleveland Browns, and also, and this is where I think you're gonna have a rebuttal for me. They were a field goal away from beating the Browns in Cleveland. With that really good defense. Brock Purdy still put them through his like the first interception ever, or at least this season. Brock Purdy still put them in a position to win the game and be the NFL's only undefeated team. So that's why I think that they're still number 1, going up against a good defense. And it comes down to offense didn't have a good game. Christian McCaffrey goes out of that game. Brock Purdy still made throws, still made enough of an effort to put his team in a good position to win the game, and special teams and the kicker doesn't come through.
I don't disagree that he put them in the position to win that game. On the last drive, for sure, because he gets them into field goal range. Jake Moody, rookie kicker, misses that kick. He also missed one earlier in the game. I think he was 1 for 3 on a day. The only thing I rebut a little bit is that Brock Purdy, sure, he had that one great drive. That game was awful. Eye test and box score test. Brock Purdy had some plays where I'm like, oh my gosh, that is not an efficient quarterback that he's been so far this year.
An expected completion percentage of 64.
For him.
He had a 50% completion rate, so that's a minus 14 CPOE. That was worse than PJ Walker.
Yeah. 125 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He sacked 3 times, something you don't really hear about. Purdy getting sacked a lot. Trent Williams does leave the game for a little bit, comes back. Debo gets hurt. CMC gets hurt. I get that. And he's playing a great defense.
Yeah.
In a rainy game, people are talking about his hand size because of the rainy conditions and him slipping the ball coming out.
What are we doing?
I don't care about that crap. I'm going to be honest. But I think it's something of note where he played a really good defense, and sure, he had that one great drive at the end. The whole game, he looked flustered for the first time in his career. First loss as a starter, too.
You're not going to be perfect, and that's the main the main thing is that you're not going to be perfect as a quarterback. You're going to have bad games.
Yes,
but he did enough at the end to put his team in a position to win, and that's why I say undoubtedly still I have the 49ers 1. But certainly there's going to be weeks that are going to go on. There's going to be fun games that are going to continue to happen. The Dolphins are playing the Eagles this week. So certainly 2 teams in Lombardi Land going up against each other. Dalton, we're going to have another fun week of NFL action. Any final thoughts?
How about a Dolphins-Niners Super Bowl? Let's end it there. Let's get those 2 teams there.
Did I say that last week? I said that's I used a phrase. It's like my dream.
Yeah.
Because it's the ultimate revenge game.
Mike McDaniel versus Kyle Shanahan.
Raheem Mostert revenge game. Mike McDaniel, so many members of that coaching staff. Here's what I said. Society needs that. That's what I said. Society needs a 49ers Dolphins.
We did talk about this because I see the uniforms too.
Yes.
That would be awesome. But those 2 teams, Eagles are right there too. Philly can come back. Detroit's there. Kansas City's there. Buffalo's there. And then some of these other teams could fight up there too. We got a lot of football left.
All right. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching as always. Leave a like, comment who you like, who you don't like, and why our rankings are right, wrong, whatever. See you next week. Peace. Thanks for watching.